Welcome back to Retro Repairs. Here we have a Nintendo 64 game. Look at Goldberg. WCW Mayhem. Pretty simple. We can go ahead and open this guy up. Yes. I pre-did the screws beforehand, and yes, I did. Before I even took it apart, I brushed down all of the contacts and give it a good cleaning is the first thing I did, just to make sure to save time for you guys. And let's see. And we stopped there. So first we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a little visual inspection. This board looks, it's pretty decent. We see there's a little divot in this contact right here about halfway up, and I can actually feel it. Wow, that's weird. It's actually a hole that goes down. So we're going to want to take a look at that, and maybe that could just be a little bit of corrosion, but that could be stopping contact from here to here. We're going to flip over the back. And just from a brief visual, everything looks all right from just a standard operating procedure. So these guys test pretty simple. We're going to get my multimeter out and put it in continuity with audible tone. So when we touch, that means we're getting a signal. When you're checking continuity on any type of board for this, sometimes I'll see people test too high up on the contact pad, but the bottom parts are what come in contact most of the time. So you want to always test from the bottom. So this is going to be pretty simple. We're going to test from before this problem. Okay, and it just works, but hopefully the camera picks up the hole that's in here. It's right there. It's pretty, yeah, there you go. You can see it right there. It's an actual hole. How that happened, I don't know, because the board doesn't have corrosion, but who knows? We can, so from this point on, we're just going to test spots. Now, with Super Nintendo, they have gone ahead and put solder masking over all their vias, like they always do, so they can make some test points, pain in the butt, but we'll get by. Testing the big plate on the outside, so that's these and these two, so we know it gets all the way around, which is good. Oh, these go nowhere on this side. Goes up and underneath. This goes to this big plate here. Fine. These go into that via there. Very nice. Cool. No connect, no connect. This is the one with the hole. There we go. Pretty simple process, thankfully. So what normally can go wrong in these? Normally you'll get a break in the trace, although the break in the trace is normally somewhere here where the traces are the thinnest. That's the most common. They'll be dirty. That's the biggest thing, because they'll just oxidize and have some corrosion on the pieces of the contact that connect. And once in a very rare blue moon, the capacitor will fail, and sometimes the resistor will go bad. Those are pretty rare, but they're not unheard of. The other common thing to happen, though, is to get a cold solder joint. These do use unleaded solder, but if this was a rented game, they got high in and outs of play, and people typically didn't take care of rented games, so, or not as well as you would your own personal game. Cool. All right, so we know all these pins on this side are at least getting to the leg, which is important. We can always test resistance, and we can test the capacitor, but that stuff's pretty simple. So now we're going to flip the board And we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side of the board. So outer pins connect. Real good. Excellent. Zoom out a little bit. Pull this down. So they go around to each other. We can make sure they hit spots on the board. They do. These are pretty simple, but just again, follow the trace or the line. Boom to here. Now, what you have to look forward though as well is if there are multiple destinations. So this one pin here next to number 9 comes up and hits this, but then continues to here. And a lot of the times people won't test the continuation. These are where we'd be looking for cold solder joints where the chips are. Just people shoving these in and out of their console. It happens. And a lot of the times you can find it out with testing like this. Another thing though, sometimes people will test and they'll only hit the tip of the legs, which is on the pin. You want to really push that joint because there's a chance that the pad may have come loose, so that you may have solder connecting to the pin and to the leg and everything, but then not actually going to where it needs to go. So always give the joint a good press. Where's this one go? Goes to here. Cool, very nice. This is a big one. Comes, there's a lot of stuff in here. We can just make sure it hits all those points. Okay, excellent. If we need to, if we test everything and it's good, it's rare that the vias have a problem because they're solder masked. Sometimes though, if you're getting a black screen, you know, you're not supposed to pull the cartridges in and out. Sometimes when the system's on and everything's loaded, actually you could wipe the memory of the RAM chip, which is a big problem. Then you can use a whole system on the computer to reflash the ROM and blah, 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 but hopefully we don't get that. Also, there's a chance that one of the chips that is not one of the legs that doesn't go directly to a contact could be bad. That goes up, and then it also comes down. Yep, perfect. All right, we're doing good. It'll be the last one I check. Why did I start from the right today? Where does this one go? Comes up to here? No. It turns and then turns and it comes around. All right. We're going to assume that these games were quality checked by Nintendo, were sold, and were working at one point in their life. So we wouldn't, and no one has attempted to repair them. So we wouldn't be looking for, you know, solder that's bridging. Okay, and all of these went to where they're supposed to go. Great. But if you notice, just because all of these went to where they're supposed to go, we didn't check all of the pins from this side. So now we're going to give these pins a good once over. So here's a via here. What is that going to? It's going to this via here, which goes to this pin. Okay, so these pins here are going to go to the back side of the board. Great. So we're going to put my contact here, and we're going to flip, and we're going to check these vias. So this guy. I guess I could get clips, but okay, that was weird. It kind of, we had, oh wait, what's going on with this? Let's zoom in. We may have made a discovery here. So we don't have any flux or any solder masking, and these are old solder joints, but look at this pin. It does not have good solder on it, although it looks like the leg is making connection, but is it making connection? Is it loose? It is loose. We have a bad solder joint, which, okay, and so now it's now it's not connected. Now it's connected barely. Now it's not connected. Now it's connected barely. It's just wiggling around in there. Okay. So what do we think happened here? Well, these things are probably batch tested, and this thing has a little less solder, and it was probably touching, and then eventually it just broke away. That is not hard to fix, actually. We'll clean up the little bit of solder that's there, and then we'll just put some fresh solder on. Let's get my solder braid. This is going to be such a small little job here. So we're going to use some copper stranding here. It's going to wick up the solder once we melt it. So I'm going to flip that board, and there's not much. Put the braid on it. If there was more, if it was really bad, we could have used some leaded solder, mixed it in. We could have used a little solder sucker, but that, since it only had that little nub, we're probably not even going to need any flux to fix this. I mean, this is such a small... It's even bent a little bit. It's such a small little process we have to do here. So here's our solder. Here's our iron. Bring the two together. This is leaded solder, so its melting point is much less. Look at that joint. Very nice. And let's see if we get connection all the time now from the back. So let's zoom back out. We're going to connect it with this via right here. So it's this guy right here. Flip and touch, and make sure we don't have any movement, and make sure that my multimeter is still turned on. It is. There we go. We are on the pin next to it, because we are bridging two pins. We want to go right here. There it is. All right. Cool. Let's reassemble this beast, and then we're going to try it. See if it works. Pieces? No pieces. We're going to go try this out. Now, that's pretty rare to happen for a through-hole chip. Normally, surface-mounted chips, the leg can come off, but for through-hole, more rare. Although, again, this one's from Blockbuster, so not too shocking that it has a problem, because sometimes they just got abused. All right, we did check it in the N64, and it worked. No big surprise. There's another good repair. Take it easy, everyone.